and welcome back to Tucson for second semester as we have lots of sports talk events to catch up on. Arizona football came to a tragic end as their 2014 season concluded with a big loss in the Fiesta Bowl. Arizona basketball suffered their first losses of the season on the road, but since then has moved up to number 6 in the rankings. And the NFL has come to an end as Super Bowl Sunday was one for the books. All this and more coming up on UATV Channel 3 Sports. Welcome to Channel 3 Sports. I'm your host, Zoe Wolkowitz. Let's get to know our C3S analysts, Camp Sports radio announcer Justin Spears, and Arizona sports personality Kyle Schoch. Wow, it's so great to be back with you guys. We've been gone for so long.
It's been too long, but the sports world is still moving, and it's been interesting, but now it's officially basketball season.
And I'm excited for my first broadcast, and it's going to be a fun time, guys.
Yes. Well, during the Pac-12 championship title game, the Oregon Ducks delivered the Wildcats a total smackdown when they won 51-13. So after such an embarrassing loss, you would expect Arizona to come out to the Fiesta Bowl looking for revenge and dominating Boise State on home turf in Phoenix, Arizona. But no. Arizona trailed the unranked Mountain West champions 21-0 after the first quarter. The Wildcats inconsistently got back into the game, but their comeback fell short and they lost the bowl game 38-30. So although the season ended with not just one, but 2 sour notes, Arizona had many positives this season and was ranked as high as number 3 in the country at one point. So as Wildcat fans, what do we have to look forward to for next season? Although, you know, they kind of were set up a lot, but went a little downhill towards the end.
So I think next season, Rich Rod's looking to definitely improve on this season. We're getting 4 main starters back in Anu Solomon, Caleb Jones, Trey Griffey, and Nick Wilson. So I think we can definitely improve next season.
One thing that Rich Rodriguez hasn't had since he's been with Arizona is a quarterback coming into next season. We didn't know what Matt Scott was or BJ Danker coming in. Now Rich Rodriguez has a quarterback that he knows that can come in and season out and come in and put the production that he has. So, and especially because he's such a young age, he's going to be a sophomore. And even though they're losing an important offensive line that helped them have a great season, they also have a lot of receivers coming back. They have Trey Griffey coming back. They have Caleb Jones coming back. Devontae Neal coming back. Trey Johnson coming back. The list goes on, and as well as Nick Wilson. Nick Wilson has had all Pac-12 type of year, and it should be fun to watch this high-powered Arizona offense come back next season.
Yeah, and watch out for the backup quarterback, Brandon Dawkins, to challenge Anu Solomon for that starting spot. He actually fits the offense very well. Rich Rod really liked him last season, so we'll look for him to put in a little challenge for Anu Solomon for that starting spot.
You know, although the season ended, pretty terribly, a little bit embarrassing for Arizona, I mean, Rich Rod has just brought a complete new era, and I know they joke around calling it the Rich Rod era, but it really is. Arizona has not been ranked in the top 25 for a very long time, and I know last semester during the show we touched upon that, but it's definitely, brought Arizona and the Pac-12 as a whole up, especially seeing Oregon in the championship title game. Well, we'll switch gears a little bit, but before winter break, Arizona basketball had an undefeated record. However, the Wildcats lost right before Christmas to UNLV during non-conference play, and after the new year, Arizona suffered another loss, but to a Pac-12 rival, the Oregon State Beavers. Since both losses, Arizona has dominated their opponents at home and on the road. On Friday night, Oregon State came to Arizona turf, and the Wildcats got sweet revenge with a 57-30 win over the Beavers. Well, it's now February, and basketball season is winding down. That also means that the annual March Madness tournament is just right around the corner. And although there are 2 losses to questionable teams, what still makes this Wildcat team not just number 6 in the country, but honestly one of those teams that could be a national tournament contender?
Well, Arizona, they just have that pedigree. It's Arizona. They're a blue blood program. Sean Miller has the players to have a championship type of season. And it all starts with senior point guard T.J. McConnell. Sean Miller in the past press conference said that T.J. McConnell, I don't understand why he's not in the race for Pac-12 Player of the Year. And it's also it's crazy to think that a guy, just a transfer a couple years ago from Duquesne, to come in and have a type of season like that where he's known as being a facilitator, but now he's took a more of a scoring role. And you also have Stanley Johnson, who is a McDonald's All-American. He is a type of player that you want on your team. And I think if you have all those guys mixing well together, especially Arizona at this time, when they're hot right now, I think Arizona could definitely have a deep run in March.
Yeah, and going back to T.J. McConnell, he's a fifth-year senior. He's the leader of this team. He actually has every statistic up this season from last year, including he's playing very well defensively. He has over 2 steals per game this year, up from last year. He has 8 steals last game when we played Oregon State, which was a career high for him. And we also see some offensive consistency from him this year. He's shooting 48% and gets 9 points per game with 6 assists per game. So he's really helping the team out this season.
Yeah, I also want to highlight on Arizona's free throw percentage because
it's got a lot better.
So much better. Although
so
it's not even good. Like last season, it was embarrassing to watch. Aaron Gordon, big guy, one of the stars on our team, just airball
40%.
Those free throws over and over again.
And that really hurt us in the tournament.
It did. I mean, losing to Wisconsin by 1 or 2 when we had, I think, 12 missed free throws.
Yep.
Like that would have been an easy way to the Final Four, and we missed that.
I think T.J. McConnell is reminding me a lot of Aaron Kraft this year. To be honest, he's playing very well. Yeah.
Yes. Well, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to switch gears a bit and talk about one of the most exciting Super Bowl games there's been in the past few years. All this and more coming up on UATV Channel 3 Sports.
I may have fleas, but I run a yard. I see those clones looking down on me, but unlike those clones, this dog is free. Oh Lord, it's a dog's life. Oh Lord, it's a dog's life, dog's life. Oh Lord, it's a dog's life.
Hello and welcome back to UATV Channel 3 Sports. Last year the Super Bowl game was about exciting as watching paint dry when the Seahawks dominated the Broncos 43-8. But this year, the 2015 Super Bowl champion came down to an interception from an undrafted rookie. I'm not going to play-by-play you to death right now, but this play is one that deserves some mentioning. Malcolm Butler, a pretty much unknown Patriots player from the University of West Alabama, broke through a poorly set pick to intercept the ball on the Seahawks' 2nd and goal to win the game 28-24. I'm pretty sure the entire country had the same reaction as me, which was pretty much jaw-dropped. So after you guys saw that, I don't know if you're a Seahawks or Patriots fan, but what the heck was your reaction to that?
I thought that they should have run the ball there personally, but
as long as
Pete Carroll thought otherwise.
I don't know. It's such a weird situation because if you look at the way the play was designed, it was, you have that inside receiver having a block and cutting off the track to that defensive back, which was Malcolm Butler. But Malcolm Butler just has that natural defensive back instincts that you want in a player, and he was able to cut right through that seam and get in between Ricardo Lockett and that ball, and it was easy money right there.
And something that was so cool about reading about him, because I never knew who this kid was, and I don't think majority of America did really either, unless you're a diehard Patriots fan. But this guy, they even said during when he walked on during tryouts that they didn't even want to take him. And the only reason that they did was he had that great ability to defend, but he only could defend because he memorized plays. So the reason that he was so good, and everyone said it literally looked like Butler saw saw the ball and saw the pass, and he did. He said after the press conference, I've looked over, I've watched those tapes, and I've seen that play exactly routed.
Yeah, it looked like he read that ball very well, and he really he got hit pretty hard when he caught the ball. I thought he was going to drop the ball, but he ended up holding on to it. It was a huge play.
From Popeyes to getting an interception in the Super Bowl. But for me personally, it's more of like an insult to the offensive line for Seattle. Being a former offensive lineman, if you're on second and goal on just the half-yard line and you're not going to give it to arguably the best running back in the league, in Marshawn Lynch, it's almost like a big slap in the face to your offensive line saying that you can't push for a half a yard and let Beast Mode get in the end zone. So it's a very iffy call. I mean, I don't know what was going on, between the offensive coordinator and Pete Carroll, but obviously it did not work out. But even though they lost, Seahawks are definitely the favorites for next year's Super Bowl.
And even though Marshawn Lynch was there, so he just did not get fined, he definitely should have gotten that ball.
Yeah.
I think that's hands down a unanimous decision around America.
Thanks for asking.
Well, also speaking of football, over break we lost a sports broadcasting legend, Stuart Scott, to cancer. And this man was not just amazing to listen to and watch on ESPN, but his personality, his story, and just the total manner in which he lived his life is something to idolize and honor. And so Justin over here especially looked up to this man, Stuart, and I would like to give him the time, to pay him a little tribute. So we'll do that now.
As a sportscaster, we all have that one person that has the biggest influence, not only in the work field, but also just as a person. ESPN's Stuart Scott was one man that influenced not only myself, but also countless sports journalists across the country. Being just a child, I would wake up every morning before school just to turn on SportsCenter and hear "Booyah," or "He's cooler than the other side of the pillow," or even the late great, like "Gravy on the Biscuit, it's all good." No matter what Scott can say, all the one-liners in the world, but it still doesn't even begin to show the true character that Stuart Scott was. He had 2 daughters and battled cancer while still maintaining that positive attitude, and it showed because his happiness rubbed off on everyone, and not only work, but in his life. Scott lost his battle to cancer on January 4th, just after receiving the Jimmy V Award, and one quote that is a great example from Stu defines his personality from his Jimmy V Award acceptance speech. Quote, "When you die, it does not mean that you lose the cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live," end quote. So on the behalf of UATV Channel 3 Sports and sports broadcasters around the country and the world, you will definitely be missed, Stu.
Thank you for that. He was an awesome guy. I think everyone,
he's a legend.
could say that. It's not just that he beat cancer once or twice, 3 times. And, at his, not funeral, but the, ESPN Memorial Show, there was multiple sportscasters that just could not even get up there without, quivering at the lips or letting a tear fall or something. And 2 daughters, if I asked my dad, I do not know what I would do.
And he was also training mixed martial arts. And the fact that he was doing that, raising 2 daughters, and as well as, being an ESPN analyst, it's tough. So Stuart definitely will always be remembered and definitely go down as one of the greatest of all time to do it.
Definitely.
Booyah.
Booyah.
In honor of him. Well, we cap this edition of the show off, per usual, with a game of 30 seconds. In this game, the analyst and I each have half a minute to voice any particular topic in sports of our choosing. So, Justin, why don't you start us off?
Usually I'm not into, fighting, UFC, boxing. I enjoy the game, but Anderson Silva, one of the greatest fighters of all time, just tested positive on Tuesday for anabolic steroids. And it's so unfortunate because you see a guy like that with so much talent and that reputation that he has to just go down as a guy that took steroids. Now it's almost like, is he going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame for UFC? Because we've seen many guys like, not even though it's different sports, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, being iffy on whether to get in the Hall of Fame or not. So it's very unfortunate for Anderson Silva.
Yeah, it definitely is, I mean, he's just one of those names that regardless.
Exactly.
I guess we're getting another 30 seconds up here, so. Well, he's definitely, one of those names that regardless, if you like UFC or not, everyone knows. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how, everyone takes that, and definitely UFC, people who are in charge of everything, handle that. Well, Kyle, it's your turn.
So National Signing Day is tomorrow, Wednesday, and it's going to be airing on ESPN. There are 17 players that will be deciding which school they're going to, and actually 6 of the top 10, so it's a pretty big day for high school signees. Anyway, Alabama has, the last 3 seasons, have had the top recruiting class. They're looking at number 4 this year. If everything holds up tomorrow, they're currently number 1 in the recruiting class rank. Another interesting fact is Snoop Dogg's son, Cordell Broadus, is deciding which school he's going to tomorrow, and that is at
Yeah, that's going to be something so cool, and I've always watched that. Have you guys been watching that series on ESPN of Snoop and his son?
A dad's dream.
Yeah,
So.
I know, and he's at one of the best, private school,
He's playing
sports schools.
Bishop Gorman.
Bishop
I
Gorman.
thought his name was going to be Cordell Dog.
Dog.
The favorite thing that I saw was, they have the big G, for Bishop Gorman, and they put Snoop Dogg was at one of the games and made his own shirt saying, "It's nothing but a G thing."
But a G thing.
I was like, only Snoop Dogg
That's
would do that.
witty.
Clever by Snoop Dogg.
Of course, what else is?
Baby.
Well, I'll close this out on the 30 seconds. So, Yasiel Puig, if you don't know him, watch some baseball because he is one of those biggest, best Dodgers out there. And I'm from St. Louis, so obviously having to be a St. Louis Cardinals fan. Yasiel Puig was in a press conference a few days ago stating that every day he wakes up thinking about the St. Louis Cardinals. He is that frustrated with my favorite team in the whole wide world, the St. Louis Cardinals. And, for the past 2 years has just lost during postseason in the playoffs. And he said, the only thing I want to do is beat the Cardinals and get into the World Series because clearly they can't do that. They never will. But
Well,
a little biased over here.
That's going to be tough, especially now that they got Jason Hayward in the mix up there in St. Louis. So Cardinals have a pretty tough team next
When
season.
do we not?
They'll both have good squads.
Exactly.
Well, that will do it for this week's episode of Channel 3 Sports. Check out our previous shows online and make sure to tune in again next week. For Justin Spears and Kyle Schoch, I'm Zoe Wolkowitz, signing off and wishing you a great start to your week. You are watching Channel 3 Sports on UA TV.